I knew how to quit you.
This seems so weird.
There's no place like home.
I'm gonna make him an offer again with you.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Rankin. We're on the home strip of Oscars. I go about like 2 weeks.
Gone with the wind. Gone with the wind. Gone with the wind. Not rank. Rank. Come on, Malcolm. What the heck?
Everyone watching here knows what I meant to say. Anyway, we've gone with the wind. We've got on the home strip. Got 2 weeks to go to the Oscars. And yeah, but got Dan here. Dan, how's it going?
Pretty good. I had a good week. Watched a lot of movies, but the big one was Dune Part 2. Phenomenal. Just absolutely phenomenal. Hopefully we have a chance to talk about it.
We've also got Lewis here. Lewis, how's it going?
Well, we got 2 more weeks, and then this award season's finally over. I really hope that they start bringing this back to February, because it feels like this season should already be wrapping up. But we got 2 more weeks. It looks like it's going to be one of those years where we walk in knowing what's going to win the big prize. Even though there's still some competitive stuff. I see a lot of people complaining, but I think that there's still some that I would argue are pretty competitive. And yeah, I have a feeling I got to see Dune 2 as well, and I got a feeling we're going to be talking about that next award season.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I don't mind if award show like it's looking like it's going to be relatively predictable, because it's a lot of fun, and it's just one of those ones like just talking about the awards is fun, and that's in general. But we're going to jump straight into this. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the Costume Designers Guild. The winners dropped. I'm pretty sure they dropped shortly after we wrapped last week. But the winner for contemporary costume is Saltburn. Period costume went to Poor Things, and then fantasy costume went to Barbie. But Dan, what are your thoughts about the winners for the Costume Designers Guild?
I'll tell you what. The costume guilds is a little bit wacky, because I see Barbie as like a film that hasn't gotten a lot of awards, and all of a sudden then it wins the costume guild, and everybody, we've been always predicting Poor Things this whole time, and so that kind of just puts doubt in the costume guild now. Does that mean that the Academy is just going to give it to Oppenheimer because Barbie won, and are they going to give Barbie the costumes when Barbie's probably not going to win anything else except for song? It's like that's a weird one for me, especially since the costumes of Poor Things are fascinating and interesting. I would rather see Poor Things win for costumes at the Oscars, but this is kind of strange to me. Lewis might have some more information on this that I don't know about.
Like Poor Things did win at the Costumes Guild. They didn't get to go up against each other. It didn't go up against Barbie. Like, it got 2 in production design.
Oh, that's right.
So they both got to win, which, makes it confusing, though, because it's like, okay, did they mostly back Barbie, or that it was just because Barbie happened to be in a different category, or are they actually behind Poor Things? And then we saw Poor Things win costumes at BAFTA, but then the question is, well, was that just a BAFTA thing? We're still trying to figure out just how strong Poor Things is. Is it, since right now the big debate is what the heck is number 2, because we can't figure that out for sure. Like I alluded to earlier, like, a lot of people are complaining because all but 2 of the above the line Oscars seem to be wrapped up, but there's some competitive below the line ones, particularly the crafts, and it really is. I'm kind of going back and forth on whether I'm going to go with Poor Things or Barbie, and I think you can make a strong case for either. And the Costumes Guild didn't really help us that much because they went ahead and gave both of them an award.
Yeah,
I didn't hear Malcolm say Poor Things, so I had a phone call in right when Malcolm was talking, so I didn't hear him say Poor Things. So it's my fault. I didn't hear.
But Barbie did win in another category, Dan. So Barbie and Poor Things both got wins at the costume design.
Oh, okay. That's my phone rang right when Malcolm was talking, so I had to try to cancel that call while Malcolm was talking and trying to respond to what Malcolm said, because I'm sorry, Malcolm.
it's all good. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones, like, it's definitely looking like it's going to be Poor Things or Barbie for costumes, and I think I said it when the nominations for the Costume Designers Guild came out, or at some stage. I think there's a lot of talent in recreating costumes and that. So recreating like the looks of like Barbie and all that. It's like, I know a lot of people's like, oh, they're just recreating costumes, so it's easy. Other than Poor Things, which is making these costumes by scratch. But I would say, like, there's a lot of talent in both ways of looking at it. So, and so I think both are deserving to be here and be in that conversation to maybe win. And yeah, but I can't remember what Saltburn was up against in contemporary, but that's one that was one I'll probably say is a little bit.
Was Colors of the Flower Moon in there? What was it up against, Lewis? Do you know?
If Killers was in there, I would think it was a period.
Yeah, Killers would have been in period.
Yeah. What do they mean by contemporary?
Modern day stuff.
Yeah, modern day.
That's a period piece. It's not a modern day movie. It doesn't even. That's like that movie took place in like the 90s or something like that, right? That didn't take place.
I didn't see any evidence that took place today.
Okay. Was it okay?
Yeah.
All right. I just check it. Just double check it. Jesus.
Though I would argue it should be considered like, what was it, like sci-fi fantasy more than contemporary?
Horror.
Yeah.
Horror, maybe.
Horror. Barbie horror.
No, not Barbie.
No, Saltburn.
Saltburn.
Oh, Saltburn. Oh, I think Saltburn was Saltburn period.
Yeah, I thought it was at least 20 to 30.
Oh,
30
no. Saltburn takes place in the mid 2000s.
See, I know it was today. Go ahead. No.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I thought you were talking about Barbie.
No, I know what Barbie is.
Well, I mean, I would argue that there's that Barbie like could have just easily been put into contemporary without there being too much complaint about that, to be honest. But yeah, but in that conversation, I managed to get it up. So the other things nominated in contemporary film, you had American Fiction, May December, Naiad, Renfield, and Saltburn.
Wow.
So I mean, it's one of those ones, like, it wasn't an overly. I mean, granted, I haven't seen the other four anyway, but it wasn't overly strong as it is. But
yeah, I could see why in that batch. God.
I mean, it's one of those ones, like, every time I see these things where they have like this contemporary, I'm always curious about the definition of contemporary. I think it sort of means somewhat modern, like anything from 2000s in that era. That's kind of what I'm speaking, because like, looking at the nominations for period, like, they're all things that took place way before the 2000s and stuff, because you had Killers, Maestro, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. So
those were the ones that are in with Poor Things. Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I don't understand though. Why don't they just have one category where all the best of what they consider the best costumes and have them all go up against each other? Then that could be an indicator of what the Oscars would do.
Well,
instead of having multiple categories.
I mean, I think it's one of those ones. I think they wanted, because think was it set design or art direction? They also had an overall award which didn't have any nominations, as well as
Yeah.
the three segments. So they could always do something like that. But I actually quite like the fact that they've got 3 different categories, because it means that you're not judging a period piece up against a contemporary like Saltburn, because how are you supposed to decide between them, because they're both completely different costumes as it is.
They're probably
Yeah.
trying to spread the love and sort of
Oh,
like
yeah.
respect the different crafts and such. Remember, like this is like the one time that they really get to focus on each other. You know, these below the line guilds are very easily forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my point too is I want to ask: has the Barbie person won before and the Poor Things person won? Have either one of them have won Oscars before? Not won Oscars before? I'm kind of fascinated by that, because that would kind of help me lean which way at the Academy Awards. Who had a better? If somebody had won twice or 3 times already, and somebody hadn't won, maybe we'd give it to the person that hadn't won, or something like that. Because I think, like in makeup, not to switch things, but they're talking about the guy that did Maestro. He already won for Vice and Darkest Hours, and this will be his 3rd Oscar in the last however many years. And then the makeup people in Poor Things, I don't know what if they had won or not. Or so sometimes that kind of plays into.
I will say it's looking like that. This is the first time for the Poor Things lady, because she's done the costumes like Jack the Giant Slayer, Lincoln, Warhorse, and that. But I think this is her first sort of nomination was for Poor Things.
So this would be something new for her. She would finally win something when she hadn't won. Now the Barbie one's going to be a key, because I thought I heard that the person who did Barbie has won Oscars before, but I could be wrong. I mean, I'm not.
Just give me a second. I'm getting it up now.
While Malcolm's looking for that, this is basically Black Panther versus The Favorite all over again, because The Favorite did really good with BAFTA and these crafts, and then but then Black Panther, which did good with guilds, ended up showing up on Oscar night, and heck, even the sequel showed up by pulling off that big costume win last year. But the question is Barbie going to pull a Black Panther, or they're just going to go with what BAFTA did? And the problem is that Black Panther I would argue, showed more strength than Barbie, because Black Panther got, talking about something we'll talk about later, Black Panther pulled off SAG, where Barbie wasn't able to. So I do want that. That's why I still think this is. You can make a case for either. It's the Oscars are a little bit more populous than BAFTA, so I can see them going with Barbie in the crafts. But at the same time, both did show a lot of strength for Poor Things. There's a case that Poor Things might be the number 2 in picture for all we know. So I mean, like I'm telling people who are complaining, there's still close races for us to debate, and this is one of them.
Yeah, this is one. Makeup, costumes, production design. These are tough races.
Yeah.
Animated feature.
Yeah. So the person that did the costumes for Barbie, she's won twice. One of them is for Anna Karenina, and the other one is the other one is Little Woman, which isn't
Little Woman a couple years ago. So
but
we got someone who's won a couple, and we got someone who hasn't won. So would they want to give it to the first time person, or would they want to give it to the person they've already given to? So that's a big kind of thing there.
But then you have to debate which is stronger. Sorry, but I'm just saying, like, this debate of which movie's stronger. Like, again, it's not The Favorite. Nobody thought that was like in the top 2 going into Oscar night. There is an argument to be made. Poor Things is granted a big gap between 1 and 2, but it is possible that it's the number 2 in picture, or at the very least is close to it. So that's going to be the question, because we know that the industry liked Barbie, but they didn't love it as much as the critics. where the critics gave Barbie more awards and more nominations. And that's something to take into account as well. On top of the fact that Barbie does have folks who have won before, that's what makes this again. This is going to be one of the ones that's going to bust people's predictions.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm worried about it. Go ahead, Malcolm. What were we saying?
What I was about to say, like, that's just her 2 wins. She's also been nominated many times. Like, she was nominated for Pride and Prejudice, Atonement, Mr. Turner, which I have no idea what that is.
Oh,
Beauty
Mr.
and the
Turner,
Beast.
great movie, Malcolm. You should see Mr. Turner. Timothy Spall, fantastic.
Beauty and the Beast, Darkest Hour, and Cyrano. All the her other nominations. So
wow.
She's definitely been in this for a while. But it's going to be interesting to see sort of what plays out here, whether they give it to whether they vote based on the name alone, which means it could be Barbie that will get it, or if they vote based on who hasn't got one before, which I couldn't find much information, so I don't. But from what I could gather, she hasn't really been nominated before for things. So yeah.
Your phone's blowing up, Malcolm. You gotta put it on silent. I know I shouldn't be the one talking though, because my phone rang just as we were about to start.
Yeah. But anyway, moving on to another guild with the Visual Effects Guild released their winners recently. Outstanding visual effects went to the creator, and supporting visual effects went to Naiad. I didn't look into everything else, but I'm pretty sure the character effects that Godzilla was nominated for, Godzilla lost that to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes,
for the crash of the rocket. But Lewis, what are your thoughts about the Visual Effects Guild?
Well, I mean, look, I think it's no secret that if Godzilla were to win visual effects at the Oscars, it would be my favorite win of the night, since it's my favorite movie of the year and my favorite movie franchise ever. But I mean, this to me tells me that the creator is the front runner here. Now, could it still lose? Yeah, I still think Godzilla's still in it, because we did see the creator lose at BAFTA. Godzilla feels like it's gaining steam, and its director has been, I don't even think he's been doing it on purpose, because I think he's just enjoying the ride of being in LA and getting to meet other directors and such. But he's kind of been accidentally campaigning aggressively. He's all over LA doing all these artisan screenings and stuff for it. It's a movie that has some of the best audience scores of the year. So I still think Godzilla's competitive, but for it to lose here, like that character thing to Rocket, and for creator to do so well, to me, it feels like I'm definitely leaning towards believing creator can win. Do I think it's a lock? No, because again, the visual effects race all season long has been ridiculous. I mean, the ups and downs, some of the nonsensical stuff that has happened in this race. So suddenly Godzilla winning wouldn't surprise me. But based on the results that we got here, I think we have to acknowledge that the creator seems to be where what they're coalescing around. But I do think it's a weak front runner given all these other factors that are going on in the race.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the visual effects space. It's one of those ones that's especially interesting to me, because, like, in my heart, I think Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 should win, because I think it's better. I really don't get the love for the creators' visual effects. Like, I don't think they're that overly impressive. But I mean, but it's one of those ones, like, this race is one of those ones where there really isn't a clear front runner. It's and it's really wide open at all. But Dan, what are your thoughts about the Visual Effects Guild?
Yeah, this tells me exactly what Lewis said. The creator is the front runner. I think I said it in my review. I'll say it now. I think one of the best parts about the Creator is its visual effects. I think trying to mix in with the technological stuff with like the Vietnam War kind of feel to it, like they did the stuff around the head, the things with the characters' heads, the computer stuff going on with their heads. It reminds me a lot of Ex Machina, how they have the computer stuff around their heads, like the mechanized stuff. But that giant space station was just crazy. To me, I think Creator's visual effects are unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable. That really brought me into that world, sucked me into that world by all that stuff, and it looked really brilliant. Godzilla having the one character and not winning that award for Godzilla, which is what everybody was raving about, is that Godzilla looked so good, and then to lose to Guardians of the Galaxy because of Rocket, that's unfortunately, it's just a bad sign that Godzilla isn't as strong as people think. But sometimes happens is you have these things that are just such a buzz. There's so much buzz around Godzilla, and because this is a guild that has to vote on its award. So if the guild has already showed strength for the Creator, then they're not going to vote for Godzilla. Then nobody else in the Academy can vote for this award. It's just that guild is going to vote for that award, and that's who's going to win. Yeah. So if they've already shown so much strength to the Creator, I don't see how Godzilla can win here.
Well, I would. Here's where I think it could. And again, I'm probably not going to predict Godzilla, even though I do still believe that it's competitive. The way that I think it could win is that, remember, the entire Academy is going to vote. It's not like if you were only. Oh yeah, so like the entire Academy gets a vote for all the winners in all the categories. So now, if this was only the visual effects people voting, then I would be very bullish on Creator. But because it's the entire Academy, then I can see a situation where they get behind the movie that was a box office hit, the iconic creature, and all that stuff.
Yes.
Now, that being said, again, I do think Creator is I would argue, is the front runner, but I just think it's a weak front runner because of how wild and unpredictable this race has been. And again, it did lose at BAFTA. So does that show some weakness when you expand past just the visual effects branch? And just one last thing, we all know about the anonymous ballots, small sample size, got taken with a grain of salt. But so far, of the very few anonymous ballots that are out there, I have found 6 of them. It is a tight battle between Godzilla and Creator. So it does seem to be coming down. So I still think Godzilla can win. But I agree with you, Dan. I think Creator at the moment seems to be the one to beat here.
But the other thing is, we don't know how much strong of a win the Creator had over the competitors, because don't forget, Godzilla -1 wasn't nominated in the Outstanding Visual Effects category. So people might just be voting for Creator because they couldn't vote for Godzilla -1.
But Godzilla losing that creature thing is very concerning. I mean,
well, yeah, but it could just be that they really like Rocket, and maybe that could be a career win in the terms of that thing. I don't know if Rocket was even nominated in the other years for Guardians for that same category.
And one thing we do have to remember with these guilds is that while there is crossover, there are members of this guild that are voting in the Academy. It's not necessarily every person in this guild is an Academy member. So we do have to keep that in mind. Again, this is another one of those that I think, even though I do think we have a front runner, it's one of those, again, that I think is going to make or break predictions, because, again, these below the lines seem to be, for me, when I went back and looked at them, these seem to be more competitive to me than a lot of the above the lines, most of them seem to be pretty locked up.
But moving on to a guild which really has no impact on the Oscars, because they always release their nominations and wins late to it. We are going to talk about the WGA because it's still an award. We still should really talk about them.
Well, can I just say something real quick, Malcolm? Just one point. What are you doing, WGA? Why would you put your awards out in April when it has no impact on the Oscars. And you're just basically saying we don't care.
Well, I mean, I think it's one of those ones like they're probably not going into this to try and be a precursor to the Oscars anyway.
Okay.
It could just be random timing thing that of how it just of it.
Well,
just,
their argument was that because of the strikes, they moved it, and I do wonder if part of it was that they expected others to move, but nobody moved, so they
Yeah.
are the lone man out here on this. And I do wonder if it's going to affect the winner, because let's say we get to WGA and do they decide to go with one screenplay at the Oscars because there's bias in the voting of, we're going to go with the Oscar, or did they decide, well, we're going to do our own thing? So that's going to be interesting to see when we get those WGA results in April.
Although in the past few years, haven't WGA's come out after the Oscar nominations, haven't they?
Last year their nominations were after the Oscar nominations, and I remember being annoyed because they nominated Top Gun, and had I seen that, I would have predicted Top Gun getting a screenplay nomination.
But anyway, the nominations we have for original screenplay, we've got Air, Barbie, The Holdovers, May December, and Past Lives. And the nominations for adapted screenplay, we've got American Fiction, Hey There, God, It's Me, Margaret, Killers of the Flower Moon, Naiad, and Oppenheimer. But yeah, I mean, the nominations, like a lot of them are pretty much slightly similar to what we got at the Oscars anyway, with the exception of Barbie being an original and not adapted, which I think it is how It's Me, Margaret maybe got into adapted at the WGA, because I think that because Barbie wasn't there. But it's one of those ones, and you've also got to bear in mind that for whatever reason in the WGA, it's always a weird one anyway, because there's a lot of things that are deemed ineligible for various reasons. But
a lot of ineligibles, Malcolm. A lot of ineligibles this year.
But other than that, I don't have a lot of problem. Like I from what I've seen, I think it's they're good nominations. So yeah. But then, what are your thoughts about the nominations for original and adapted screenplay?
Well, Air getting in original is a pleasant surprise, but it also knocked out a couple. Maestro got knocked out. May December got knocked out, and then a screenplay I don't think is that good. Killers of the Flower Moon is in and adapted, and then that knocks out Zone of Interest, and then like you said, by Barbie moving over, that screwed up May, December, and Maestro, but then Zone of Interest is kind of on the outside looking in because.
Well, I think not to interrupt you, Tim, but I think Zone was ineligible.
Oh, okay, that's why. That's the reason. Okay, so but I don't. I'll be honest. It's just showing me that with all the ineligibilities and the things, they were stretching to get 5 and 5 to me. That's what it seems like to me, And then they put Barbie in original, which, we all knew it should have been in original in the first place, except for some people that think because it's based on an IP, it's adapted. Which that argument could go on till the cows come home. You know what I mean? But I still don't think Killers of the Flower Moon is a very good screenplay. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. So very quickly before I go into Lewis, on the article I'm looking at, so basically it's any scripts for movies not produced under its minimum basic agreement or bona fide collective bargaining agreement with various affiliated countries cannot be nominated. So, which means your the ineligible ones included Poor Things, Anatomy of a Fool, Zone of Interest, All of Us Strangers, Society of the Snow, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Some heavy hitters in there.
Yeah, but Lewis, what are your thoughts about what was nominated?
Well, I mean, I have to say the one that really surprised me, even with the room being opened up by some of these ineligibles, is Nayad. That was
Well,
really
yeah, now I have.
surprising to me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
mean, like that. That to me, and the thing is, if you've noticed, Nayad's been doing pretty okay at the guilds. It got that shocking upset over Napoleon for supporting VFX at the Visual
yep.
Effects Society, like we talked about. I'm not gonna make the case that others are that it was number 11 in picture. I don't know if I buy that, but I do think that it may have been top 15 or top 20. Because that is a movie, and I said, and granted, I like that movie a lot more than a lot of other people did, but
It's a
that
good
is a
movie. It's a good movie.
yeah, it's the kind of movie that I could see an industry voter totally liking. It's the kind of movie you you recommend to your mom and dad or your grandparents, and you know they're gonna like it. I'm not that too surprised that there's some love for it there, but I am surprised that it got to the point where it actually got an adapted screenplay nomination here. But again, that's what happens when you start doing all these ineligibles, and the WGA needs to fix that, man, because the more they do some of this stuff, it makes them less and less have the impact that they can do on the Oscar. Which let's not forget, WGA was a key factor in turning the race around for Moonlight back in 2016 when that we got La La Land versus Moonlight directly that year in WGA. Moonlight won. All of a sudden, there was all this talk of whoa, can Moonlight actually pull this off? And before you know it, we saw what Moonlight pulled off. So, I mean, if WGA needs to be, I think they need to cool it trying to be so different, or they're going to start losing relevancy.
I mean,
Absolutely agree. Agree 100%. Go ahead, Malcolm.
I mean, it's one of those ones like, I mean, they're losing the impact they had because they're releasing their nominations out after the later in the game as it is. But I mean, but I'm pretty sure that there was also wasn't there a controversy about Moonlight being original or adapted in screenplay? Or
Yeah, it basically went through what Barbie did, and WGA decided no, we're going to consider it original. So it ended up that was the one time we got to see La La Land and the Moonlight get to go up against each other and in that screenplay, and Moonlight won, which was like the only sign, other than the fact that La La Land missed SAG Ensemble and Moonlight got nominated for SAG Ensemble. That was like the little glimmer of hope there for Team Moonlight.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those ones like and this goes for sort of all the award shows that have separated screenplay categories. I wish they have come up with some kind of universal rule for what is considered adapted, what is original, because it seems like every year there's always something which like, is it really original?
To not include it in because the person's not in your guild. So, in other words, nobody is allowed to write screenplays if they're not in the WGA. Come on, that's a back-asswards way of thinking. You know what I mean? People should still be able to write screenplays and be considered to win a WGA award if they're not in your guild. That's a bunch of crap.
Well, I mean, it's one of those ones like, yes and no. Like, I kind of get why WGA chose to do it that way, but it's also one of those ones like I do get what you're saying as well, Dan. I do think it's a stupid way to go at the same time, but it is what it is. The WGA will do what the WGA wants to do, I guess.
Well, obviously, they're freaking off. They're taking a. They're not on the yellow brick road anymore, Malcolm. They're off on the side road over here, going their own direction.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they're willing to help us a little bit more next season because they're not helping us at all this year.
I'm with you though. I want all this to be backed up a little. I mean, Jesus, March 10th is. I mean, anytime we need to get
late February. Late February is the sweet spot right there.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't mind it being 10 myself. It gives me time to catch up on the movies.
Yeah, I know, Malcolm. Did you finally see May, December?
I haven't got around to May December. Like it's still in cinemas though anyway. And American Fiction's finally dropped on Amazon Prime, so I'll probably get to that eventually as well. But anyway, moving on to SAG. The winner for outstanding performance from stunt ensemble and motion picture went to Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Dan, what are your thoughts about Mission Impossible getting stunt ensemble?
Yeah, I didn't get all my SAG awards right. I was going, okay, they're going to reward something the fourth time around. Okay, this movie's been doing great work for years, especially with 1 and 3. Maybe they're going to, in a way, they're kind of rewarding Chad Stahelski and stuff. Nah, they went with Mission Impossible, like everybody thought they would. I just wanted to go against the grain on that one. I mean, Mission Impossible. I mean, I would have went with John Wick. Just me. It's not because I like John Wick more or this or that or the other. I like both films. I just think there's so much more to those John Wick and the there's when they're driving around and the motorcycle jumping off the cliff and stuff. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Lewis can shed some light on this better than me. I just thought there was more to the stunts and more entertainment and energy in the stunts of John Wick 4 than Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. What's his one? Mission Impossible. We're on the 6th one or 7th one for John Wick.
But Lewis, what are your thoughts about Mission Impossible winning stunts?
I mean, I think John Wick would have been the more fun win, but I think Mission Impossible is a worthy winner. We all know about the stunts from that franchise. I've been wondering about this. Why is it that Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning has been showing up more than we've seen some of these past Mission Impossible show up? In guilds and it got 2 Oscar nominations, even showed up at the BAFTAs. I wonder if it's some residuals from the Top Gun Maverick love. I wonder if that has a little bit to do with it, given Tom Cruise's involvement, and everybody knows all about Tom being also a stunt man. And I think that played a big part in it. I'm not surprised at all that this one, because based on Tariq Khan's polling, and which didn't do too hot, but it did do good here. And based on the conversations I had with some SAG members, it did seem like they were going with Mission Impossible, and there did seem to be a Tom Cruise effect. And I do wonder if that's residuals from all the goodwill that Top Gun Maverick had last year.
Yeah, and personally, I like, as much as I like John Wick Chapter 4, I do think the stunts in that was great, and should possibly written personally. Then this is actually the first time Mission Impossible has ever won the stunt ensemble at SAG as well. So this is the first time in for the franchise as well. So but yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones like it had to have been a close race between John Wick 4 and Dead Reckoning. So this could have just been like by one vote or something. That
well, there's thousands of members of SAG, Malcolm. So you don't know how many votes it could have separated. Thousands of people.
Yeah,
a lot of people, Malcolm.
But I mean, I will say I'm glad Barbie didn't win, because I don't get that being nominated in stunts.
Yeah, where was that, Malcolm? Why were people saying, "Oh, can you imagine if Barbie wins stunts?" It's like, first of all, what stunts would it win for? Her jumping, sliding down a side, or being on some strings and being dropped down from the top of the house to the bottom of the house, or I mean, what, driving a car? I mean, what kind of crazy idea would have been if Barbie had won? That would have been ridiculous. Now,
I mean, the nomination itself was bizarre. I remember when that came through and being like, "What the heck?"
Just tells you how much they like Barbie, I guess. Or it was top of the chart where they had to vote. So now I'll check out Barbie. What the hell?
Well, I mean, it's one of those ones like and we're not going to know anyone's logic for nominating it in this category anyway, because but yeah, I'm just kind of I am curious about how it got nominated in the first place, but it is what it is. It didn't win, so yeah.
Oh, thank
But
God.
moving on to outstanding performance by a cast in a motion picture, and it also got PGA as well, and it's Oppenheimer. And Lewis, what are your thoughts about Oppenheimer getting outstanding performance from a cast in the motion picture and the PGA award?
Yeah, this really, these are the two arguably sort of the populist awards. That's why winning SAG and PGA could be so big. I said it all throughout the phase two when we started getting to the industry stage. If anything's going to stop Oppenheimer, it has to prove itself on SAG and PGA weekend, because that is when we tend to see these underdogs rise up. Parasite didn't win PGA, but it did win SAG, and it got a massive standing ovation, and that was a sign of something there. Coda won SAG and PGA. Everything Everywhere Close to Deal with a big SAG PGA weekend last year. And I thought if Oppenheimer could lose, I thought just like about a week or two ago, it could lose maybe to Barbie and SAG for SAG Ensemble, because SAG does tend to be that group that gravitates towards who do people want to hang out with? What's the cast everybody's gravitating to? And that usually is a diverse cast, a cast of an underdog film that surges at the end. But what happened this year is that the people who folks wanted to hang out with seemed to be the Oppenheimer cast. I mean, there were pictures out there, people, the who's who of Hollywood showing up at these Oppenheimer parties. And it's interesting because this isn't the type of movie that typically has that cast that people gravitate to, but it just happened to it just shows you the strength of this movie. And by it winning PGA, which shows that it can win on a preferential, I can finally stop hearing from these people who have these crazy ideas that it couldn't win on a preferential. This is what makes Oppenheimer such a dominant front runner, and why it is going to win Best Picture, and it's going to do it by having been the leader in the race since freaking July. Is that it's got some of the best audience scores of the year. Like, this is the kind of front runner that people watch and actually love and get passionate about. It's not like these other typical front runners where people are like, okay, well, I mean, I respect what you're doing here, but I'm not quite passionate about it. It's, and then on top of the fact that people wanted to hang out with the cast, and I started actually getting more and more bullish that Oppenheimer would survive SAG, because based on Tariq Khan's polling and based on conversations I was having, even people who voted for Margot in actress that I talked to said that they were voting Oppenheimer for best cast. I mean, that just goes to show you the strength of the movie. And I think that we are headed towards 2 years in a row now where the best picture winner is going to be a movie that cinephiles and critics responded very well to, had some of the best audience scores of the year, left some sort of impact in the mainstream. Casuals that we talk to that aren't as engaged in the award scene, they actually know these movies. At the very least, they've heard of Everything Everywhere, and everyone saw Oppenheimer. So I think we might be, fingers crossed, we might be entering a new era where the best picture winner is going to be guaranteed to be kind of cool and mainstream again. So I'm very excited by what this could mean. I'm very excited that we're looking at a change in what wins best picture. And again, this shows you that if you want to win as the big epic drama, you need to have people who want to hang out with your cast, and you need to have audience scores that lead people to putting you 1, 2, 3 on that preferential ballot. And Oppenheimer pulled that off.
Yeah. Is it my turn, Malcolm?
No, it's me. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones like and well, yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones like it does look like it's going that way. And but it's one of those ones like I've always believed that there's always a chance of upset. And it's one of those ones like, well, it's looking unlikely for that to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if one still happens in the end. But it is what it like. And it's one of those ones like I did not recognize and going to the speech for this, I did not recognize Kenneth Branagh at all. With his like he just had this big beard. It's like I put in the chair. It's like how's that talking? I don't recognize the dancing Kenneth Branagh. It's like oh yes. I mean even David Krumholtz was really unrecognizable with his
He looked like he wasn't enjoying being there for some reason. You look at his face; he looked like he wasn't having a good time at all.
Well,
supposedly kind of mad or something.
Well, supposedly he had been. SAG actually didn't even invite him. He came as a +1, because of the whole situation where he wasn't counted as part of the ensemble because of their crazy rules. And it's unfortunate because he's one of the best things about the movie.
Oh, I love him. Yeah. I love him.
I mean, it's one of those ones because and it's just one of those ones that like everyone that was on that stage, they wasn't all the people that was listed on for the cast because
Florence Pugh wasn't there, right?
Yeah, but I don't think I saw Rami Malek there either, but
no, he
Matt Damon. Well, Florence Pugh was probably still in that Dune 2 press tour, but Matt Damon wasn't there.
No,
well, I mean, it's either that or she's forming Thunderbolts. Because from what I've heard about the rumors, that started forming now as well.
Oh so, yeah, I saw that earlier today.
Yeah.
Look, Malcolm, I want to just say one thing. I agree with what Lewis is saying about this, but I think there's more to this than what Lewis is saying. I think I agree 100% with what Lewis is saying. It's a critic's darling, and it's a fan darling. Obviously, by the way, it made almost $1 billion, and it's selling out 4Ks everywhere. You can't find a 4K of it. I had to email my publicist to try to get a dang 4K of the dang thing because other people were getting them and I wasn't getting it. And I was like, why didn't I get it? And she, oh, okay, you never got one? I said, no. So I ended up getting one finally.
That's the only way. That's the only way I got the movie, Dan. Is because they happened to actually the studio sent it to me. That's the only way. I mean, this is and that's how popular this movie is. It was freaking selling out 4Ks. And you know, it's that to add to what you said then about it being a critic fan favorite. This and Everything Everywhere are those rare films where you're not surprised if it shows up, in some critics like top 100 list. If it's a movie that filmmakers in the future say, "Oh, this made me want to become a filmmaker," and it's a big hit with the regular person off the street that you talk to.
Well, the thing is, too, is what I was, you didn't let me finish, but I was trying to say is that, look, Christopher Nolan has been a fan's darling guy for a long, long time. And I think it's just, you just put so many dots together. Robert Downey Jr., you know what I mean? Cillian Murphy has been doing this for almost 30 years. You know what I mean? Nolan's been doing this. He's been putting out banger after banger after banger. Yeah, Tenet wasn't the best, but it wasn't like it was bad. I mean, bad for Nolan is still good. You know what I mean? And that, that's arguable. That's arguable. I know some people. Oh, I don't know if I like Tenet.
I'm a Tenet defender, so
okay, all right. But my other thing is this: we're in a world where there's multiple wars going on in Israel. In Ukraine, we got nuclear powerhouses, China, Russia. We got all this going on. I've said this before, Malcolm. You can you can agree with me or whatever. The movie that wins a lot of times the Best Picture and gets a lot of the love at the Academy Awards is usually a movie that it was supposed to happen that way. There was a reason for this movie to come out when it came out, and for the time in the world that we live in. And I think it was just a magical time for these people that made this movie. Like, I feel bad for Warner Brothers, David freaking Zaslav and them guys. They got to be pissing in their freaking cereal right now, knowing that no one left and went to Universal, and now they're going to win the biggest movie of the year for Universal. And then they're trying to butter them up by putting Tenet back in theaters and trying to get them to come back and all this stuff. It's like, oh, you gotta love what they're trying to do. But now this, I mean, I've been saying it for months. It was my number one movie of the year. It's just a movie, and it does all the great things that Nolan does great, and he made a masterpiece out of them. You know what I mean? He did so much things that he does so good, but also that if you think of the great Oscar-winning Best Pictures, this is going to go down as one of the greats of all time, I think, because we've had some shaky ones out of Africa. I know you'll probably say Green Book at Lewis, but this is going to go down. When you're talking about the great Academy Award winners, I think Oppenheimer is going to be in that list of some of the greats of all time.
Well, I like Green. I'm actually a bit of a Green Book defender, but I will say that I don't. Green Book is not going to have anywhere near the legacy that Oppenheimer's going to have. Like I think
I love Green Book. I love Green Book.
Yeah, me too. I'm a Green Book defender, but like at the same time, it's like I think that you do have a point there. It's not just that it's a big critical favorite. It's not just that audiences respond very well to it, including the casuals. It's not just the box office. It's just not how important with these wars that are going on. But it is also that thing that happens every now and then of it's this director's moment. And it's this director's moment, and they're gonna bring the best picture along with it. It's Marty with The Departed. It's Steven Spielberg with Schindler's List. All those movies, by the way, also did pretty good at the box office. Yeah, it's just, and again, this is 2 years in a row now that I believe we are getting Best Picture winners that will age very well with time.
I mean, regarding to the box office, I'm curious to see how it would have done if the whole Barbenheimer movement never happened and they were separated. Because I don't think it does I don't think either Barbie or Oppenheimer do as well as they did box office wise if fans didn't do the whole Barbenheimer movement because they were releasing on the same day.
I would argue that they kind of helped each other, Malcolm. Barbie helped Oppenheimer's box office, and I think Oppenheimer helped Barbie get a little bit of a prestige to almost give critics the go to make it an awards thing.
Well, I mean, that's what I was getting at, is because I think if that never happened, I don't think either one would have done as well. I still think they probably would have still gotten love at the Oscars. I wasn't even trying to argue that. Also, I will add, I think the selling out of 4K is just strictly an American thing, because I can still see a lot of 4Ks on the shelves over here.
Well, one more thing you got to remember too is what if Oppenheimer was Warner Brothers? You know they wouldn't be on. Warner Brothers weren't going to put Barbie and Oppenheimer on the same date if it was the same company. If Nolan stayed with Warner Brothers and made Oppenheimer under a Warner Brothers banner instead, Barbie would have probably moved. Well, and so you wouldn't have that phenomenon. And there's things that would have Dune never left? What if Dune stayed in November? You know what I mean? There's a lot of factors that play into it.
Well, I mean, it wasn't even. The thing is, I don't think Warner Brothers in its current state would have given Nolan $100 million to do whatever he wanted to do, because that they would have tried to control that as much as possible, or that they would have done what they do and try and but yeah, but it is really ironic that it was Warner Brothers that ended with Barbie that ended up helping Oppenheimer out. Well, unintentionally, but anyway, we could go on and on talking about box office, and that's not what you came here to hear us talk about. Um, but moving on, outstanding performance of female actor in a supporting role went to Divine Joy Randolph. Dan, what are your thoughts about Divine getting supporting actress?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think she's fantastic in the movie, and she's sweeping everything. She's even sweeping BAFTA when BAFTA doesn't necessarily go with black actors, but they do go along when it's a sweep, and they have gone along with her for some reason. I really liked what she was doing in this movie. I'm just curious what it was about her specifically in this role that they thought was the best. What, like, there's so many other potential people that they could have gone with that for the best supporting actor of the year, you know what I mean, in different types of movies and different and things. And whatever reason, what was it? I want to know. Yeah, her son dies and she's crying. She goes to that party and she's crying in her it's like, but what exactly? I mean, I've seen this type of thing done better before. You know what I mean? What is it about this performance that ended up being a sweep? You know, that's just fascinating.
I got a theory on that. I got a theory on that, Dan. But I'm just curious. Like, but you're still cool with the win? Do you think it's still a good win?
Yeah. No, I like her. I like her, and I liked her in the movie. You could see her like at the Independent Spirits, like she had to get up there and she's starting to lose. Like she's not enjoying it.
I think we may have lost the Dan for a sec, but okay. Well, hopefully he catches the replay because my theory is, oh no, I think we're getting Dan back up. Well, anyhow, but my theory is that the reason she's sweeping is because I don't think the supporting actress lineup is particularly that strong. I think had Lily Gladstone stayed in supporting, she could have potentially given Divine a lot of trouble. Had Carey Mulligan been in supporting instead of actress, she could have potentially given her a lot of trouble. And then, of course, there's Daniel Brooks, which, again, according to the SAG members I talked to, I do think she got significant amount of votes. It just wasn't enough. But The Color Purple just turned out not to be a big player as much as they loved Daniel Brooks' performance and got behind it. So I think that just kind of opened things up to allow Divine to kind of sweep through with a movie that is very well loved and probably would be better in contention to win if it wasn't for Oppenheimer getting in its way. So that would be my theory, is that between Lily Gladstone deciding to go for actress, Carey Mulligan, they decided to push as a co-lead, and Daniel Brooks being loved, but the movie itself being weaker than her significantly. I think this kind of created the perfect storm for Randolph to become a sweeper.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones like I loved Divine Joy Randolph and the holdovers. I think she was easily. I would have predicted her all season, even if she wasn't a sweeper as much. Because I just thought that she's definitely better than Emily Blunt and Oppenheimer. That's for sure. But yeah, and this is one of those ones that I'm pretty sure this is going to be.
I agree there, Malcolm. Ferreira and Barbie. I like Sandra Hüller and Zoe.
But anyway, moving on to the next category, for outstanding performance in it by a male actor in a supporting role went to Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer. Lewis, what are your thoughts about what RDJ getting supporting actor?
Yeah, this is the other locked. I mean, feels like a lock at this point, really. I mean, again, grain of salt, very small sample size, but out of the 6 anonymous ballots that are out there, all but I think all but one voted for RDJ, and based on the voters that I talked to for SAG, almost all of them were going for RDJ. Everybody's just getting behind RDJ. Everybody's just ready to give him his career Oscar. He's been, I will say that I feel like his speeches are getting a little bit weaker. I don't know if it's because he's winning so much and he wants to be careful what he says. I do hope, and I was listening to the Awards Watch podcast earlier today, and they made a point. I do hope that RDJ mentions his dad when he gets up there to accept that Oscar, and because really this is a comeback story. You know, this dude at one point had hit rock bottom with addiction and problems like that, came back, was the face of one of the biggest franchises in film history. You know, the MCU maybe not as hot as it used to be. You know, there's some people out there who are a little bit snobbish about it, but you cannot talk about the history of film, particularly in the 2010s, without bringing up the MCU and the effect that it had on pop culture. And here he has had this performance that showed people that he can be in serious dramatic roles again. That shows that he can play a villain. This is going to be easily one of my favorite things that are going to happen on Oscar night, because at this point it is like 99% likely that he's going to win. I think we all think that he's got this locked up. The only major place that I saw him lose was with the Hollywood Creative Alliance, and they have had a couple of issues of late, and there's a lot of questions about some of their winners. So if you take them aside, RDJ has just been sweeping Critics' Choice, Golden Globes, BAFTA, and now SAG. A populist SAG that easily could have just gone with the, kind of more fun comedic role in Gosling, but they went with this. It's going to be really interesting and fun to finally see him get his Oscar.
But Dan, what are your thoughts about RDJ getting supporting actor? I think it's frozen. So
may have lost Dan for a bit.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean it's one of those ones like for me with RDJ, like I know everyone's going, oh, is it career Oscar? I think out of the nominations, I think he deserves it. Like,
yeah,
it's one
I
of
agree.
Those ones, yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people sort of diminish it to being just a career Oscar, but it's like, well, no, because it's like it is a career Oscar in that sense, but it's also a career Oscar that is deserved to be won by that person as well. So I mean, like, so it's one of those ones. Like,
it's a nuanced performance.
No, I mean, it's one of those ones. Like, it's definitely not one of those ones that like you poo-poo because it's just career Oscar, because they deserve it. Yeah, so it's like it's technically a career Oscar, but it's a deserved win as well. But Dan, what are your thoughts about RDJ getting supporting actor?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a nuanced performance too, because he comes into this thing thinking, okay, I'm going to win this. I'm going to get on this. I'm going to get elected to this position, and it's a witch hunt for him because of things that he did in the past, which he kind of. There's layers to the performance. He's I've said this before, the hairpiece and all that stuff.
May have lost Dan again.
Yeah. I was just giving him a little bit of time to see if he comes back, but yeah, it's looking like we've lost him.
I will say, Malcolm, like I mean, I'm completely in agreement with you that I it is obviously a career Oscar, but I do think it is deserved because he was my personal winner, and I've been voting for him when in the critics groups that I belong to. So on top of that, this is who I want to see win. Period.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with you, Lewis, and I agree with you, Malcolm. It's just. I think there's a lot of things that have happened for Oppenheimer, including Cillian Murphy, including Robert Downey Jr., including Christopher Nolan. A lot of things have kind of Hoyt van Hoytema. You know what I mean? A lot of kind of, what's the word? Things have just
perfect storm. A perfect storm.
Yeah.
Things have aligned. A lot of things have aligned for that movie. You know what I mean? And you could have been right, Malcolm. If this is a Warner Brothers movie, could this have been the perfect storm, or all these stars could have aligned this way? You don't know. You know what I mean? Moving Dune off of that November, late October, early November date, and all that kind of stuff. You don't know. The strike actually, I think, may have actually did Oppenheimer and Barbie a favor. And RDJ just going along for the ride. Cillian Murphy's going along for the ride. Everybody's going along for the ride. I mean, nobody's getting off that train.
But moving on to leading actress, and that went to Lily Gladstone, which makes one interesting race between her and Emma Stone, because both of them won a Globe in their respective categories. Then Emma got the BAFTA, Lily got SAG, so they're pretty much neck and neck in the industry awards at the moment. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the Oscars are going to align with this time around. But Lewis, what are your thoughts about Lily Gladstone getting leading actress?
Can I just go first, Lewis? Can I go first on this one first? Because I want you to kind of respond to me in a way. So by letting me go first, then you can respond to me and say what you're going to say. I know Malcolm's been giving me a hard time over the months because I was just like, I thought Lily Gladstone's basically playing herself. Look, I'm not knocking what Lily Gladstone did in Killers of the Flower Moon. I have problems with the movie overall, with the screenplay and some of the decisions that they made on the movie. I don't have a problem with her as a person and her being deserving of awards and this and that and the other. And if you both Emma and her won Golden Globes. Emma wins BAFTA, Lily wins SAG. Now we got Oscar. To go. And everybody was like, okay, now we got a race. Who's going to win what? I look at last year, okay, guys? And if you just looked at Emma Stone in the audience when Lily Gladstone got up there, she was going happy, jumping for joy, like she was happy as a clam in the ocean for Lily Gladstone. And I think there was a little thing that people forget, that this is inclusion. You forget about Lily Gladstone being Native American. And this is an inclusion award for SAG, thinking, oh, we're going to do inclusion here by having Lily Gladstone win for Best Actress. Show that we're include two white Caucasian men win over here. We got a black woman and a Native American woman winning over here. So we're trying to do some inclusion. Now, the Oscars could do that. They could be showing, you know what? We want inclusion. We want to show some inclusion. Instead of having two Caucasian white guys, a bunch of Caucasian white guys with Hoyt van Hoytema, Ludwig Göransson, all this kind of stuff, Instead they have a Native American woman, and that would be the first Native American woman to win in Best Actress at the Academy Awards. It would be a groundbreaking moment for the Academy Awards. So there's more than just her performance in that movie. It's about what can we do to show inclusion of a very, very knocked down race of people in this country for hundreds of years. And there's those kind of things going on for Lily Gladstone. And remember what happened last year? Kate Blanchett basically gave up because she didn't want to win a third Oscar, where someone like a Michelle Yeoh didn't have any. And this is the kind of thing that these people are starting to show now. They're like, hey, I already won. Why can't somebody else win? And I think there's a little bit of that in there with Emma Stone. Now, I know I said a lot, Lewis. I'm sure you have your own opinions, but the floor is yours.
I mean, I completely agree that one of the biggest strengths that Lily has is her narrative. I mean, and not to mention that she does great speech as she goes up there. She speaks in her native tongue. She talks about the inclusion and such, and you see the responses to her. There's standing ovation. She got a standing ovation at the PGA when she was presenting the clip for Killers of the Flower Moon. And by the way, it's not to make things even more difficult. Don't forget, Emma won Critics' Choice. However, Lily won with the Hollywood Creative Alliance, which at the time, not anymore because of some recent scandal between the two groups, but they did have crossover voters, which tells you how close it probably was at Critics' Choice anyway.
And one more thing real quick. I was told from people that were kind of in the industry and people that have been following that Lily was on the picket line yelling, screaming. She was a leader out there on those picket lines. And maybe SAG said, you know what? You were a leader out here. We want to show you some love. And here you go. Is that going to happen with the Oscars? I don't know. Go ahead, Lou. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, I mean, that's fine, but that's a good point. I mean, she was very prominent out there during the actors' strike. She has incredible narrative. When people go to see Killers, there's all this talk that during the Killers of the Flower Moon screenings, they gravitate towards her even more so than freaking Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro. That's how much. The thing, though, is that we have.
Who else are you going to root for, Lewis? You're not going to root for Leonardo DiCaprio. You're not going to root for Robert De Niro. You're not going to root for all these guys killing all these people. Who are you going to root for? She's the only one to root for.
Yeah, and then of course there's the situation that Emma has won before, and there are going to be talks about, well, Emma's just 35. Emma's about my age, and it's like it's crazy. She has a chance to already win 2 Oscars, and it's like, well, she's probably going to be getting plenty of more chances after this. How many chances are we going to get to see Lily do? Emma's not going to lose work if she loses an Oscar. However, there is a little bit of a difference between last year. People are comparing this to Yeoh and Blanchett. Yeoh was in the Best Picture winner. A Best Picture winner that happened to break the above-the-line Oscar record and become only the 3rd film in history to win 3 acting awards. Poor Things is the stronger movie than Killers of the Flower Moon. Killers of the Flower Moon has slipped to becoming sort of the nomination is the win kind of movie, whereas Poor Things is in the debate for what is number 2 to Oppenheimer. That's the big difference that can help Emma. Another thing is when SAG ended last year, that was right before voting began. So that momentum for Michelle just kept right on through the voting, whereas SAG happened this year right in the middle of voting. There's already some folks who have their votes are in, locked and loaded for Emma, and maybe they would have switched had they gotten to see what happened at SAG, but too late. Their votes are already in. So that is something to keep in mind. I think if you want to see any signs as to the weakness of whether Emma can win or not, it's going to be like what happened when we saw signs Austin Butler was going to lose to Brendan. If Poor Things comes up short in costumes, if it comes up short in production design, that to me would be a red flag on the night of that Lily's going to pull it off. Because when Elvis was underperforming last year, that was a sign that Brendan might actually pull this off after all. So that's something that I would tell folks to keep an eye on the night of. But I gotta tell you, man, this is going to be one that I'm going to be going back and forth on over the next week until I make my final predictions, because I think you can make a really strong case for either of them. I can see the narrative carrying Lily through, and I can see Poor Things' strength carrying Emma through. This is going to be very interesting. It's going to be the one that we're going to be on our toes on up until that envelope is open.
No, I agree. I think this is probably the closest best actor. I mean, even closer than last year, which was close.
I agree.
This is
because last year.
Well,
last
we had the Glenn Close, Olivia Colman year.
Yeah.
And then we had last year. Now we have this year. So we've had a few close best actress races over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah. But when Close lost, that was considered like a big upset, even though there were signs that Olivia was right on her heels. Then last year, even as someone who still predicted Kate at the end, I remember when I made that prediction, kind of already being iffy on it, because everyone and their mom could sense the momentum shifting towards Michelle. This time, I mean, I don't want to say that it's necessarily momentum that completely shifted towards Lily as much as it keeps her in the race. This feels so unpredictable to me. Like, people who are all confident about, Poor Things is a stronger movie, so it's got to be Emma. Lily just won SAG, so it's gonna be her. Like, I'm not as confident as they are.
That's still the largest body of voters voting for the Academy Awards. Is going to be the acting body. Yeah. How do we know how close the acting branch was? The SAG branch was to getting Lily. What if she was 2 votes away? She won by 2 votes. We don't know. Nobody knows how close Lily beat Emma by. And if you have, and you don't have all of those actors in the Academy Award, but you have a lot of actors in the Academy Award. That's the largest voting body in the Academy Awards. So if she won SAG, that's still a very large body of people that are probably going to vote for her come the Academy Awards. So you can't take that away. You can't discount that.
But Emma, but the thing is, Emma's going to get votes, because there are people who are very passionate about Poor Things. Again, it is in the conversation to be number 2. If Oppenheimer didn't come out, maybe it would be positioned to win Best Picture. The other thing is strong.
You said it earlier. Everybody votes on this, so maybe everybody just thinks Emma's just amazing in that movie, and they want to give her a second Oscar. You know what I mean?
And I just want to say,
I voted for Michelle Yeoh last year. Don't get me wrong, in my ballots and stuff. But I said to you that I remember saying to Malcolm and whoever we had, I said, if they feel like Kate Blanchett is the best performance, they're going to give it to her. If it's her 3rd, 4th, 1st, whatever it would have been, and they just chose to switch direction and give it to Michelle Yeoh, because I think the signs of Kate Blanchett giving up, telling him, this dog and pony show, I got to get up here and do this. They're like, oh, you don't want to win? Okay, we'll give it to this person. But she was very clappy, happy.
Yeah, but I would argue, Dan, that it didn't hurt that Michelle was in the Best Picture winner. That broke the line record. And the thing is that if Lily wins, it's extremely likely she's the movie's only win.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
and that's what makes me that's still what's making me pause to get behind Lily's narrative, getting her through.
Yeah.
It's just and look. I just want to say, because there's some people out there who are taking this race really seriously and taking shots at each other online and stuff. I would personally, if I were an Academy voter, I would personally vote for Emma because she, to me, was the best performance of the year among the ladies. But I would be very happy to see Lily Gladstone win and go up there and do a awesome speech. So whoever wins, I think we win. But this is one that's going to really mess with our prediction record.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean,
Malcolm, sorry,
I will,
taking up so much time.
I will disagree with something Dan said. I
Here we
don't.
go.
There was nothing bad.
It's the only
it was
above the
just,
line
it
race
was-
we can debate. So
Okay, go ahead, Malcolm. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, no, it was just more of a case of I was going to so it was like because Dan said something about comparing this to Kate Blanchett from last year. Like just because Emma Stone's showing support for Lily Gladstone, she's probably would have shown support for anyone, whoever won. I don't think it's necessarily a case of Emma Stone has essentially given up and doesn't want to win.
No.
Like-
I noticed. I agree, Malcolm. She isn't doing what Kate Blanchett did last year.
Yeah,
I do agree there. I do agree.
I would say
So-
she's showing humility.
Yes, which is what you want. More so than Angela Bassett showed. They got her saying the F word when she lost. So I agree.
but I
Go
mean,
ahead.
yeah, but yeah, it's just, but I mean, at the Oscars, it's definitely going to be either Emma or Lily. It's going to be one of them.
Wait
Unless,
until
of
the
course-
prediction show when we get to this.
unless of course,
category.
unless of course, someone comes out through the middle and just like steps on both of you, like I'm gonna win. But
If we get a wild pianist situation when that's what happened, that's how Adrian Brody won. He basically came right up the middle between that battle between it was Daniel Day versus someone else. But I would say if we do get a shocker like that in actress, it's probably going to be Sandra. That being said, I do think it's probably going to be either Emma or Lily are going to win.
all right,
But I'll tell you what, not going off on a tangent on this, but if you remember that speech from Olivia Colman, she was like, "No, this wasn't what was supposed to happen." She didn't even want the trophy. Can you imagine if she would have said,
Yeah.
"Glenn, come up here. I'm giving you the trophy." She would have nobody. That happened in the Emmys one time. Jack Lemmon gave it to Ving Rhames.
Oh, that was the Golden Globes there.
Ving Rhames gave it to Jack Lemmon
Yeah,
one time.
Golden Globes there.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah, it was Golden Globes.
I couldn't believe it. I was shocked to see that somebody actually.
I didn't watch it in person.
I did.
Was too young
I
at the
saw
time.
I remember
Yeah.
seeing it. I was just shocked, and I thought, Olivia was going to do it. I thought that much percentage she was going to do it.
Oh,
It
you're
looked
talking
like-
about when Olivia won? Oh,
Yeah,
I
it
saw
was
that in
close.
person, but yeah.
I mean,
No, I mean-
I don't think it was going to go that far. I think it was just more of a case. She was just really surprised. Because I think that was that Olivia Colman's first time being nominated at the Oscars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think she was probably surprised for that reason, with the fact that it was the first nomination and she bet out people would be nominated multiple times.
Everybody just got behind the bandwagon that it's going to be Glenn. And in hindsight, when you look at the other results, including BAFTA and such, you realize that Olivia was always competitive.
But anyway, moving on to lead actor, and that went to Cillian Murphy. Which it's one of those ones. Like, I know there's some people out there who's like the race is over and all that. Like Cillian's going to win. I think I think there's still a very. I mean, while it's not as strong of a chance as it was at the start of the year, but I think there's still a chance that Paul Giamatti could still win.
I agree. I actually agree.
At the Oscar. just because I know the Oscars do love Paul Giamatti, and this is, and not that I'm saying that Cillian Murphy is not deserving to win the Oscar, but I think it's a case of he's still got a lot of career ahead of him that he's probably going to get a lot more media roles now, and because he's proven that he's really good at leading, especially with the fact that he got a nomination. And it's one of those ones like if you talk to some actors, like some actors will say like the nomination is the win for them. Like they appreciate just getting nominated. Um, so I mean it. Um, so I do think that there was a slight chance that Paul could win because of that. Because Paul was, I don't know how old is Paul Giamatti now. He's got to be
I want to
almost
say
70, 80 now.
what? No, he's not that old, Malcolm. I think he's like in his mid-50s.
He's in his 60s.
Oh, he's in his 60s?
Yeah, he's in his 60s. Paul Giamatti. Paul Giamatti's in his 60s. Cillian Murphy's almost 50.
Okay, well,
his age, if you want. I think Paul Giamatti's in his 60s. He's been acting for quite a while.
Yeah.
Maybe his 50s. Yeah. You could be right, Lewis. But he just looks older. He looks older than than.
Well, yeah, no,
but they've been actually acting almost a similar amount of time. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Lewis, what are your thoughts about Cillian Murphy winning lead actor?
So I just checked. Paul's 56. Paul's 56. So he's close to his 60s, but okay. But anyhow, so I agree.
Right, 48. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, Cillian's not quite 50 yet, if I remember right. But I actually do agree with you, Malcolm. I do think that there is a chance for Paul Giamatti to still win this, and that's if he hires Danny Ocean and his crew to do a robbery of the Waterhouse firm and mess with the tabulations, because there is no way that Cillian Murphy's gonna lose this. He has this locked up, okay? He's gonna need Danny Ocean to help him out if he's gonna win this. Cillian Murphy winning BAFTA is expected. Winning SAG, where Paul Giamatti has done well in the past, that surprised me. And I know that Paul definitely got some votes. I mean, it's going to be very hard for me to see how Paul wins this now, because clearly Cillian and his performance the movie's just carrying him through, and he is poised to become one of those rare lead actress that wins with his movie, winning Best Picture. It'll be the first time since The Artist that this happens. I would even dare say that I would be more surprised if Cillian lost this than if Sandra Hüller were to pull off a big upset out of the blue in actress. I think this is over. I would be beyond shocked if Paul were to still pull this up. And here's the thing, because we haven't gotten to see Paul win with the industry yet, we're assuming he's number 2, but maybe Bradley is number 2 for all we know with the industry, because I do know he SAG voters who were voting for Bradley. So for all we know, Cooper is actually the number 2 in for the industry. Unfortunately, they never revealed the tabulations, so we won't know. But I think this is Cillian's to lose.
Yeah, I agree.
Dan, what do you?
I agree. I think after winning the SAG, it's all over but the crying for Cillian Murphy. I mean, it would be, and it's not an upset as far as if you look at the 5 actors that were nominated. I think I said this on I even sent in a question to the Next Best Picture podcast, and I said, is this one of the best acting lineups in the history of the Academy Awards? I believe it is. I think it's one of the best. I think I said this months ago. I gave you guys this 5 lineup months ago, that it was going to be these 5 guys. And I have waffled because Bradley Cooper was my number 1, you know? And as time has gone by, I realized Cillian Murphy's got this thing in the bag. And I do not dislike any of these performances, any of these 5 movies. I think they're all phenomenal performances, and these are the 5 right guys coming in. But with that SAG win, that's all I needed to see. That Cillian Murphy's got this thing. He's riding that Oppenheimer train right to victory, and I don't see any way anybody else wins. That would be a massive upset. Even though I think Paul is great and he deserves to win, but Bradley Cooper deserves to win. I also think Jeffrey Wright deserves to win. What a crazy scenario if there was a tie, which there won't be, But
Danny Ocean,
Cillian Murphy all day, every day on Sunday. On March 6th. Go ahead. What'd you say?
No, I was just gonna say again. The only way I can see Paul winning at this point is if he hires Danny Ocean and his crew to go into that Waterhouse firm and mess with the vote tabulations.
But anyway, that does bring us to the end of another episode of Gone Swim. We'll be back next week with our final Oscar predictions. But I believe there's some other guilds dropping winners in that time period as well. I've got to really rush off, so not going to bother with plays. I'm going to end the stream now, but see you all next week.
Sunday?